Like most people around the world, I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan. Rest in peace, my guy. If I could bring you back, I would. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. All right, guys, now we have Michael, one of my most anticipated films of 2026. This film is coming in at 2 hours and 7 minutes and is rated PG-13, and is being described as docudrama, period drama, showbiz drama, biography, drama, history, and music. Now, this film is being directed by Mr. Anton Fuqua. This is what the gentleman looks like right here. And I am a big fan of this man's work. If we scroll down all the way to the bottom, he did Bait in 2000. I did see that. Also Training Day. Huge fan of that in 2001. King Arthur, I believe I own this on DVD. He also did Shooter with Mark Wahlberg. I remember when that movie came out, a lot of people crapped on it. I don't understand. I thought it was fantastic. Brooklyn's Finest, I'm also a fan of that. Now, I did not really care for Olympus Has Fallen, but I did like the sequel, London Has Fallen. That was pretty good. And he was also responsible for the Equalizer trilogy with Denzel Washington. Equalizer Part 1, Part 2, and also Part 3. And let me go back down. I do not want to forget Southpaw. I'm a big fan of that film as well. The Magnificent Seven. Pretty much everything he's done, for the most part, I have been a fan of. He also did Emancipation in 2022, which came out on Apple TV with Will Smith. Big fan of that film. I got really emotional at the end. And now we have Michael. So if you are a fan of Mr. Anton Fuqua, if you've seen all of his films, let me know down in the comment section below. Now, when it comes up to my expectations for the film Michael, they were high. They were through the roof. I love Michael Jackson. Most everyone does. I am a huge fan. I am not an expert Michael Jackson fan. I don't know every concert, every song, and every allegation or all of his childhood, bringing up every detail in and out. I don't know all that, but I'm still a huge fan. I remember when the film was first announced, one of the castings was Miles Teller, and everybody got upset. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people online like, oh my gosh, who is Miles Teller going to play? Is he going to play Michael Jackson? This is whitewash, and that's ridiculous. He ended up playing one of the main lawyers that is now even part of Michael Jackson's estate. And that was just kind of funny to me, and I did want to bring up. But when they released the casting of who would fulfill the role of Michael Jackson as his nephew, Jaafar Jackson, the son of Jermaine Jackson, Michael Jackson's older brother, I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. He's never acted before, but at least he knows the material because that's his uncle. At least he knows his story. At least he knows a lot that majority of the public won't know. And if he can knock it out the park, you know, I'm down with this, of course. He looks the part. And from interviews that I saw early on, I thought that he could do a great job, and I was in for it. But there has been a lot of controversy, not only with Michael Jackson's life, but the leading up to this film and the way it was made. If you did not know, and if you was living under a rock, and that's perfectly fine, half the family, or not half the family, but Janet Jackson was not really a fan of this production. Also, Michael Jackson's daughter, Paris, was not a fan of it either. And there was a documentary that came out in 2019 called Neverland Ranch, and I didn't see it. And the producers of that film, later on when this was announced, said that this was a complete whitewashing of Michael Jackson's story, and they're trying to sugarcoat things, saying that they did not bring up any of the child molestation allegations that haunted Michael in his later years in life, in his career, or the 90s and 1993. So I will go ahead and say this. When I get to the review portion of this film, I am going to judge this movie based on what it is and the time that it covers, not what it was originally planned to be, because I honestly don't think that that's fair. So I have to preface my review with saying that. Now, Michael Jackson's career lasted for a total of 43 years. It started in 1966 in Gary, Indiana, and ended in 2009, unfortunately the same year that he did pass away. And the reason why I say his career ended in that time is because he also came out with the concert movie, This Is It, that came out in 2009 as well. So that's 43 years. Now, this movie does not cover all that time. It covers from 1966 to 1988 at the end of his Bad tour in London, England. So if the movie is not even going over that timeline that stops before the 90s begins, I cannot judge the movie off of Michael Jackson's life that happened in the 90s and no on forth. That wouldn't make sense. That wouldn't be fair. Now, the reason why that's the case is when this film first went into production, it was going to be around 3.5 hours. And the last act, the third act, was going to cover all the 1990s controversy. However, there was a mistake with the script, with the production, and the lawyers and or estate missed a clause saying that some of the alleged victims of the sexual abuse and or molestation cannot be named or depicted in the film. And it was already filmed. It was already in post-production. So they had to go back and do a ton of reshoots to take that out of the film and then expound upon earlier events in Michael Jackson's career where it was in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, or at least up until 1988, 1989. So when I heard of this news, like, oh my gosh, they filmed this whole movie, but then they have to cut out chunks of it. This production is going down the crapper. It's gonna suck. So my anticipation, my excitement, my expectations did go down just a little bit, and I was worried. But when they started releasing trailers, and I did react to it on my channel, I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be fantastic. It's gonna be great. I love the casting with Joe Jackson as Coleman Domingo. I love the casting with his mother, Katherine Jackson, played by Nia Long. I love the casting with Jaafar Jackson. And after seeing that trailer and also hearing Michael and his voice, or Jaafar Jackson portraying his uncle, Michael, and also Quincy Jones, and the way that they edited the trailer, you know, my excitement went back up to the roof. And then they had the world premiere in Berlin last week or the week before that. I heard some rumblings of how great it is. There is one gentleman that I believe went to the premiere in Berlin by the name of Chris Tate's Take. Subscribe to his channel as well. He's a big Michael Jackson fan. He makes great content. I saw his social media reaction, I believe, and he said it was great. And I trust him. I know he's not going to lie. And also I saw a couple of other reactions from people that saw various early screenings. At the time of me recording this right now, it is Tuesday, April the 21st. There was my screening was last night, the 20th, Monday in Dallas. And that was also the LA premiere, or the United States premiere, I believe. And it's not really doing well right now, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna let that taint my opinion, my review, my reaction, my recap breakdown of the movie. But the film comes out this Friday and I'm excited to talk about it. So guys, before I get into all the nitty gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what this Michael film, this Michael biopic is all about. The story of the famous musician, Michael Jackson, known as the King of Pop. I'm also going to start this review off saying, as large as Michael Jackson's life and or career was, I think it's impossible to please everyone. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. But the first thing that I loved about this film is it's impossible to say you've never heard of Michael Jackson before. The only person in human history that has ever been more popular than Michael Jackson is Jesus Christ. It's Jesus Christ at #1 and then Michael Jackson at #2. But you still may not know all the ins and outs. You may have been born just a few years ago and heard about the guy, but still not know everything. So if you are not that familiar with Michael Jackson and only heard of the name, or if you was an alien visiting Earth and he was like, hey, you know, we got these signals about this guy, Michael Jackson, like, who is he? What can I watch? What can I read that would sum up Michael Jackson's life in a short amount of time? I think that this film did a great job at that, coming in at only 2 hours and 7 minutes. And again, it was supposed to be 3.5 hours, and we may get a sequel of this because it only covers his first part. I think it did a great job there. It's impossible to cover everything, but they did at least hit on all the key points, at the very least the surface. And going into that more and how they covered the film, I love the timestamps. I love the title cards. At the very beginning of the film, when the credits are ending and it says Lionsgate and Universal, you start hearing the music. You see some of his signature outfits with his shoes and those glittery socks and his high-ride pants and him tapping. It just instantly brings a smile to your face, and then goes back in time of 1966 Gary, Indiana, and we're introduced to the Jackson 5. And throughout the whole film, it says 1966, 1968, 1970, 1975, all the way up until the end of the film in London, England, in his bad tour of 1988. Again, if you don't know anything about Michael Jackson, these timestamps, these title cards, also cued with the music, did a fantastic job of letting you know exactly what part in time we are witnessing with the Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson's life. The next thing I loved about this film is the casting and or acting across the board. There was not anybody in this whole film and or entire production that dropped the ball on acting. Speaking about Jaafar Jackson, who is fulfilling the role of his uncle, the titular character Michael, this is his first film debut. And it's as if he could act. It's like he's been doing this his whole entire life. And I don't know if that's just because he's emulating his uncle or being himself, but he did a great job. And so whoever coached him, directed him, Anton Fuqua, or whoever else behind the scenes, they knocked that out of the park. There was not one point in time to where I said to myself, okay, he's doing a bad job. This is not really bringing the great late Michael Jackson to life. It felt like I was watching Michael Jackson. And we also have a couple of other A-studded stars as well. We have Larenz Tate playing the role of Berry Gordy. I didn't even know he was cast in this film until I was watching it. And that was fantastic. Also, Joe Jackson being played by Coleman Domingo. I have one nitpick about his character that I'll talk about at the end, but besides Jaafar Jackson, he was my second favorite in the film. Yes, his real life character was despicable, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but he still did a great job of making me despise the character or having some disdain for him, bringing that character of Joe Jackson to life that we know and love as an abuser and forcing this talent amongst Michael. Also, Nia Long playing Catherine. She was very soft-spoken. I don't want to compare her to Angela Bassett in the 1992 TV drama, The Jackson 5, The American Dream. I still feel that she did a great job for what she was. And let me go ahead and press pause right here just a little bit for comparison's sake. This film is focusing on Michael. This is not focusing on the whole family, the Jackson 5. The 92 TV drama two-part series, that focused on all of the Jackson 5. This just focuses on Michael. And so if I said the word comparison, I will go ahead and give the trophy to Angela Bassett in that film, but that's just because Nia Long did not have nearly as much screen time as Angela Bassett. This is not focused on them. Yes, she's prominent in this film, Nia Long as Catherine Jackson and the rest of his brothers and or sister, singular, and we'll talk about that in a second. It does focus on Michael. Also, Jaafar Jackson, Coleman Domingo, Nia Long did a great job. And I also want to give some shine to the actor that played the young Michael Jackson as well by the name of Juliano Valde. I've never heard of him before, but he was just as good as Jaafar depicting the young Michael Jackson. It may even be better. Well, I don't want to say better. That's a stretch, but at least as good. Never heard of him before, like I said, but knocked it out of the park. This young boy is 12 years old, and he was depicting a 10-year-old Michael in the film. He was just adorable. He was sweet. He made me fall in love with this character, Michael, in the movie before Jaafar even hit the screen. And that goes to show in the early Jackson 5 Motown days when he was having scenes of dialogue with Berry Gordy, played by Larenz Tate. And early on in the film, another thing that I love that was just so fantastic is I felt that I got to know Michael in a way that I didn't know before. I got to see part of his childhood that I didn't know before. I mean, I feel so sorry for him, rest in peace. He didn't have a childhood. We knew that it was robbed of him, but seeing him in these scenes, this young boy looking out of the window in his living room, seeing other children play outside in the yard, playing in the snow, and he couldn't do that. He had to stay inside and practice, and if he didn't practice enough, he got his butt whooped with a belt. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is tragic. And you see as a young child that Michael just needed love. He just needed a hug. And he didn't get that from his father. He didn't necessarily get that from his brothers. He definitely didn't get it from his dad. He got it from Berry Gordy, played by Larenz Tate. And that was just a side of perspective of Michael that I've been a fan of all my life that I've never seen before. So again, I have to give the film credit for, because there's been tons of interviews and back scene stories and documentaries and movies and short stories and TVs and not all this and that. But in 2026, years after Michael is still passed, Ansar Fuqua and production was still able to give me a side of Michael that I've never seen before. And that was just in the first 15 or 20 minutes of this film, being played by this young actor right here, Mr. Juliano Valdi, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Great job, had the dancing down, had the music, the singing down, had all the mannerisms down. It felt like I went back in time even before I was born, and I was able to see a little baby Michael Jackson, just the most sweetest, adorable, cutest little boy in the whole wide world. So great job there, sir. You did a fantastic job. And another thing, like I was saying, is this film focuses on Michael. It does not necessarily focus on the other characters surrounding him and his immediate family, not that much, except for Joe Jackson and Catherine Jackson, his mom and dad. Yes, LaToya is there, and she has a line of dialogue or two, and I thought it was fitting because it's supposed to focus on Michael. And yes, the whole Jackson 5 was there, his brother Jermaine and Tito and everybody else. They was there as well, but they did not have that many lines of dialogue. They were present, but they weren't prominent. And I thought that the amount of time that the film focused on them or lack thereof was crucial. Another highlight of the film that made it as great as it was, because if you couldn't tell, I really did enjoy it. And I love the way that Michael was afraid of his dad and was intimidated by him and tried to stand up to him at certain points of time, but he wouldn't look him in the eye, wouldn't say anything, would put his head down, walk away with his tail between his legs, sigh in depression or just disbelief of some of the crazy antics that his father Joe was doing. I love the way they depicted their relationship. The one-on-one scenes between them was also some of the best portions of the movie as well. There was also a key scene in the film between the husband and wife, his mother and father, Catherine and Joe, Nia Long and Coleman Domingo. There was another highlight in the film where Michael was not present, but it was still a pivotal point in the movie. I love the way that she stepped up to the plate, and that just goes to the acting. Nia Long is great. She has been one of my favorite actresses since the 90s, since I first heard of her, going all the way back to Friday. She was phenomenal in this role, and I want to see her do more and more and more. I mean, yeah, she's been in the game. She's been in Hollywood for a long time, but I never want to see Nia Long stop acting. I mean, she was great in this, and I loved her role too. Stuff that they focus on were not just Michael. Other scenes that did not have Michael in it, also his lawyers versus Joe Jackson as well, of how he's just trying to move forward in his career. Serious, but also had great comedic timing as well. Not jokes, but just real life funny moments that everybody in the audience that witnesses this movie or any movie can relate to. Not a jokey movie. This is a serious movie. So it's not just filled with a bunch of slapstick, but when you have those comedic moments that with great timing that you can relate to, it just makes the experience that much better. Also, another highlight in this film is the editing. The film or movies or television is not made when you're on set and you say action. Films and television productions are made in the editing room, and this was some of the best editing that I've seen in a long time. Because while this is a drama, musical, biopic and all that, and some of the producers that I believe were a part of Bohemian Rhapsody, which I loved, I thought that film was flawless. That was more of a concert movie at points in time. And while you do have those aspects in this film, that is definitely not the entirety of it. The way that they edit this film when they're recreating all these pivotal musical scenes that we know and love from Michael Jackson, the way they lead up to it just lets you know, like, hey, I'm just letting you know something is coming around the corner. You better put on your seatbelt, hold on to your butts. It's about to go down. And they don't just play the track and let the music play in the background as the scene is leading up. The way they edit it, it just gives you a little taste of the music, a little cue of like dun dun. And then the scene plays on, then dun dun. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's coming. The person I was with, I'm elbowing them like, yeah, it's about to go down. It's like dun dun dun. And me going like dun dun dun, that's the music coming in and you recognize the song. But I've never seen it like that before. The way that they're teasing you and you're just kind of like salivating at the mouth, like I can wait, but I cannot wait until I take that first bite because I know it's gonna be delicious. It's like your favorite dish at your Thanksgiving dinner, your birthday, whatever the hell it is that you wanna celebrate. And they do that multiple times. This is not just like a concert movie where Michael is performing on stage from beginning to end. Yes, you do have those portions in the film and it's great, but it's much more than that. It shows the behind the scenes, how the whole production was made, cutting and showing you different takes. Like this is the 6th take. I think that you should stop and shoot the film this way or shoot the scene this way. Instead of getting my torso up, I want you to get my feet, my whole body, but then you still have that music going on in the background. Again, there have been countless depictions of Michael Jackson and his whole entire family for the past 30, 40 years. But this film, again, in 2026, gives it to you from a different perspective, from a different angle that you've never seen before, humanizing Michael, making you like him even more. I mean, how do you not like Michael Jackson? I mean, it's just impossible. I mean, you're going to love him even more after you watch this film, in my opinion. And again, that goes to the editing. I loved it. They cut this up the best way they possibly could without it being choppy. It was delightful. I thought the costumes and the wardrobe was spot on too. From the 60s, 70s, and even the 80s, they knocked that out of the park as well. And overall, the film did have great pacing too. Early on in the film, I did kind of want them to slow down a bit. Like, no, I want to see more of the Jackson 5. But now, you know, you're moving on 2 or 3, 4 years in the future, and I want to see more of this. But again, it's impossible just to try to cover everything about Michael Jackson's life. I mean, it would be like a 24-hour movie nonstop. And there were a few key moments in the film where I thought it was going to end and I was about to be disappointed. Like, no, please do not end the film right here. Keep it going. I want to see more. And they didn't disappoint. They gave me more. They gave me more. But guys, overall, I really did enjoy this film. I barely have any complaints. It's nearly a perfect film. Nearly just a perfect home run with all the sparkles and the glitter. But I do have a nitpick or two. And so now let me transition to some things that really didn't work out for me. Even though I love Colman Domingo, he's a fantastic actor, one of my favorites right now. His makeup wasn't horrible, but it was just blatantly obvious that he was wearing makeup and he just didn't look like a real person at times. I mean, his makeup was just too thick. In my opinion, I think that they should have dialed it back just a little bit. Now, you can also say the same thing with Michael, but part of his life was the cosmetic surgery that he went through. Even in real life, it looked like Michael had a bunch of makeup on his face. And so it just didn't feel completely natural with Joe Jackson being played by Colman Domingo. Another thing in this film is when he had the accident with the Pepsi commercial and his hair caught on fire. That could have been depicted a little bit better. I felt that that sequence was rushed a bit, and the CGI that they used for the fire, it just didn't look real. I felt that they did a better job in the 1992 TV drama series version, The American Dream, Jackson 5, but that's just another nitpick of mine. And the way the film ended, it wasn't abrupt, but the last musical performance in this film was the Bad Tour. And while Jaafar did a great job of depicting his uncle, I felt that every other musical number in the film prior to this was slightly better. The one in the end, that was the weakest. It wasn't bad, but I was just like, okay, you did a better job of depicting your uncle, Michael Jackson, all the way earlier in the film, but you know, this last one here is just not as good. But other than that, guys, I have no complaints. I love the film. Again, the 2019 HBO drama series, Leaving Neverland, when that guy or people that was in charge of that said that this was a complete whitewash of Michael's story, that's completely 100% inaccurate because the film didn't cover that. At the end of this, you know how in Marvel it says the Avengers or so-and-so will return in the next film. They did that. They said Michael Jackson's story continues. And they do plan on having a sequel and or sequels. Is this successful? Again, this covered from 1966 to 1988. And so that part of his life that he's talking about didn't exist in this film, so you can't judge it off that. Now, when they come out with the sequel, if they try to whitewash it then, that will be a more accurate critique. But you can't it's just, if you try to judge this movie based off that, you're cheating, because the movie clearly, what the movie is and what they gave us is from that timeline. And so that's what I'm judging it on. Okay, so we can save that for later. And also Jermaine Jackson and Jaafar Jackson and a lot of his other family members, they was okay with the production, but Paris, Michael Jackson's daughter, and also Janet Jackson, they weren't a fan of it. They're all related to him, so who is more important than the other? The Jackson 5 was a part of Michael's life before Janet was, as far as performing. I thought they were like 3 or 4 years apart, but apparently it's 8. And again, all of Michael Jackson's life was before his daughter Paris. Anyway, I'm not trying to dilute or dismiss, her opinions on her father, but at the same time, they're all related to him. So whose opinion do you value over the other? And so, that's just my 2 cents there, my opinion there. I will go ahead and give my rating at the end of this video, guys. But for now, that is just my opinion. And I want to thank you for tuning in. If you are a fan of the show From on MGM Plus, I am new to the show and have reacted to every episode since season 1, episode 1. And you can see that on my channel right now. We got From season 1 right here, every episode I reacted to. We also have From season 2 and From season 3. And now we have From season 4. So also check all that out and check out my review for You, Me, and Tuscany. That was also a banger that I really enjoyed. But yes, watch all of my From videos front to back 30 times each. It would really help your boy out. But no, if I had to rate the Michael film out of a 1 out of 10, I would give it a solid 9.25 out of 10. Yes, a 9.25 out of 10. So yeah, but guys, thank you again for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that I'm B. Avery. That's just my opinion. Peace. And I'll see you next time.